Hi, this is Dan McCready. I'll be covering the tutorial for the myHOAst User's Guide. We're going to break down the User's Guide into 7 pieces. Let's go through this here. The first piece is going to be the table of contents, pages 1 through 7. We won't be spending much time there, or any time there, actually. The second piece is the general information, pages 8 through 23. I recommend each person read these pages, or at least go through them. This is very important information about the whole system. So that's kind of critical to everybody. And then third, we have the table of features. Now this indicates every feature you can do in all of our products, and it's separated by product. So all products are involved in features on page 25 through 28. Starting on page 29, you shouldn't even be referring to that if you don't have myHOAst Voter or myHOAst. And then starting on page 31 is for myHOAst clients only. And then pages 33 and 115, that's the bulk of the book, would be just the features. And again, the way this is set up is you're going to use the table of features to figure out which one you want to look up, as opposed to reading pages 33 through 115. You'll refer to those pages only when you find a feature that you're interested in doing. And then we're going to talk about the Appendix A, which is how to set up a vote. It's at the tail end of the book. And Appendix B, how to process a secret election. That's the 2-envelope system, the anonymous ballots. And 7 is Appendix C, processing a non-secret vote. Now I say non-secret vote because I'm talking about anything that is not anonymous. Some HOAs have their election being a non-secret vote. Your non-secret vote would include most non-binding surveys, and it would include your document changes. Anytime you're not involved with a 2-envelope anonymous secret election, you look at the non-secret vote. Now, Appendix A, setting up a vote, that can be an election ballot. It can be changes to your documents. It can be a non-binding survey. These are all things you can vote on. Okay. So now, let's start looking at the user's guide. Again, we're going to skip the table of contents, page 1 through 17. So if I go to page 8, begin the actual information that you should be looking at carefully. And it begins with an introduction and tells you about how the user's guide is broken down. An example of information that is worthwhile and you should be looking at here, if I go to page 10, I'm going to see the different products that the host has. Now, this is not a page for selling more products or different products. This is to let you know that it's important for you to know what product you're using. Since the features are separated by product, you need to know what product you're using so you know what features are available to you. And we even go to the point that I scan down here a little bit. How do I tell what product I'm using? So here's a way you can actually get in, look at your myHOAst version, and determine what product you're using so that the features will make more sense. And if I go into page 12, we talk about the permission levels. We talk about subscribers and admins and leaders. And this is important for you. Typically, a board member is a leader. But if you want the board member to do tasks that are differentiated by the term admin, then you need to make them an admin leader. In the features, you will see that it will tell you what permission level can do each feature. So again, it's important to know what the permission levels and the roles actually mean. And the last thing in this area that I want to talk about today is you need it's important to know the difference between a voter and an owner. We sometimes assume these are the same things, and they are not. You can have a voter who is not an owner, and you can have an owner who is not a voter. Most typically, a person is a voter and an owner, but it's important to know these terms. This is critical to the process of voting in Florida. Now, if we go to the table of features, starts on page 25, and it looks like this. It's grouped by categories, like the first category is things involved with logging on. And over on the right, it tells you with an X what things can be done by the subscriber, by the admin, by the leader, standard, visitor, and if you have somebody who was on probation, what they can still do. So when you look at something like, let's go down to item 12 there, respond to a name change request. This is a voter who wants to change their name, and only the subscriber and the admin, right down here, number 12, only the subscriber and the admin can respond to that, can approve or disapprove that request to change a name. So if you're assigning that to somebody, they need to be the subscriber or an admin in order to respond to these requests. Now, if I'm going to talk about the item number 2, approving a user requesting help logging on. This is somebody who wants to log on, they're having a problem, maybe something's not matching, and they need help. They can get help from a subscriber, the admin, and the leader. And this is feature 2. Now, that doesn't mean it's on page 2, obviously. It's feature 2. As it turns out, feature 2 is going to be on page 34. And you can see there, you have at the top of the screen there, number 2, that's feature 2. And this is how you approve a user requesting help logging on. Now, what I want you to see here is that in this little write-up, it talks in terms of updating the subscriber additional email address. In other words, the subscriber who is the only one to get these special emails can have the emails sent to other people. You go to feature 18 and you'll see how to dictate your team of people in your community to receive emails saying that someone has a problem or a request. But this is approve a user requesting help logging on. So the subscriber gets this email. Nice little picture here. The subscriber gets an email saying that Mickey Mouse is having a problem logging on. And we're under approve, so to approve, here's your bullets, 4 steps or 4 notes to approve. You go to CM user requests, you select users requesting help logging on, and you select search names to approve, and then you're going to hit the select key next to the name of the person you've approved. 4 steps to approve a user needing help logging on. And then it shows you this is the email that user will receive. There's a lot of information here. Now, if you decided to not approve them, to disapprove them, then, well, I'm sorry, if you decide to approve them and they're a brand new user, they're going to get a different email. They'll get this email. If you decide to disapprove them, here's your steps, and this is what the user will receive via email. So hopefully it's very clearly set up. So the features are found in the table, and then they're identified by feature number, not page number. You go to that feature number and see the steps. Then it comes time to go to Appendix A. Appendix A talks about how to set up a vote. Now here's your steps. To set up a vote, you create the meeting, then you create the ballot or the meeting vote or the survey. You create a general proxy if you want a general proxy set up, and then you identify the opt-in and opt-out dates. Now, some clients have created votes many times, and they feel very comfortable with that. But you check out D there, identify the opt-in and opt-out dates, something that is very often forgotten. And that's on page 121. When you set up a vote, it says the opt-in and opt-out dates must be set up if this is official voting. In other words, if you're doing a vote that requires a quorum, you must have the opt-in and opt-out dates set in the software, and it must be based on your board resolution. That's an easy thing to forget. So it's always a good idea to go through this Appendix A for setting up any vote, just to make sure you have forgotten nothing. And down here, this is a pictorial set of steps. It tells you where to go, and it tells you what you're going to see and what each item means. And then with Appendix B, this is how to set up a vote with a secret election. A lot more steps, but each step is identified. Each step is told where you go, and each step shows you pictures on how to do what you're doing. And again, very important, this is a secret election. This is what you do at the meeting. And you look at page 148, the end of Appendix B. Don't forget to remove the opt-in and opt-out dates. Once that meeting is done, again, something that's very easily forgotten. If you don't remove the opt-in, opt-out dates, then people can no longer opt in. And that means that for your next vote, this is going to cause a problem. They need to be removed. And then Appendix C deals with the meeting vote or the non-secret votes. Most surveys, document changes, again, the same setup. And again, it's going to talk about the opt-in dates as being required if you are using if you are doing an official change, an official non-secret vote that requires you to meet some quorum. And that's the way the whole thing breaks down. Wileen, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
And actually, I'm going to turn it over to Julie if there have been any questions. And again, folks, if you do have questions, please just remember that you can use the chat box and you can send your questions to Julie LaRue.
Hi, good morning, everyone. There was one question. It was, where do I find the user's guide?
Good question. Yes. The user's guide will be found under the Help menu option. When you log on to your own version of myHOAst, there'll be a menu option at the very top of the page, and at the far right will be a Help menu option. And under that, you will find the user's guide. You can use it online with hot links inside the user's guide, or you can print it and use it as a reference book.
Okay, thank you. Julie, were there any other questions?
Yes, hold on, one just came in. The request is to have you taking attendance at an annual meeting.
Yes, taking attendance.
Can you show us where that is? Can you show us where that is in the user's guide?
I believe I can. Let's see, so attendance would be, let's see, for a secret election, attendance would be on page 148. I believe, actually, let's go to page 122 and find it. 122 starts the secret election. Take attendance is A, so it's going to be the first thing up. So on taking attendance, it's going to tell you to select the meeting line, select attendance, and it's going to tell you to check the box next to the person attending the meeting. Now, it's interesting that this question would come up because if you want a true attendance at the meeting, you want a permanent record of who is there, this is very useful to use. This will give you exactly that, and you can keep this for as long as you want. However, if your purpose is to watch attendance only for the purpose of figuring out your quorum, and again, attendance becomes important because somebody at the meeting may not have filled out a proxy and may not have voted, but the fact that they're there, even though they've done none of those tasks, the fact that they're there counts towards your quorum. We do handle that another way, and that's going to be part of our new user's guide that's coming out very soon. So if your purpose is to have an accurate quorum, you don't need to use the meeting attendance section, the section A, and that'll be described in the next user's guide. But if you want an attendance per person, here in section A, it'll tell you exactly how to use it and exactly how to get it done.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to hand this back to Eileen.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
wait,
This is
wait,
Eileen
sorry.
again. Okay. It's
I'm
okay.
so sorry. A couple
Yeah.
have been just now coming in. First one is, how do I get to the myHOAst site? What credentials are needed to log on?
When a community does business with HOAst, the first thing they do is provide us their data, either an Excel spreadsheet or a connection to the property management software. We use the data that they provide us and create the site. As soon as the site is created, we send our primary contact an invitation to log on. So each association has their own unique site, their own unique URL. So you won't have a site until we're doing business together and you have provided us the data. After that, you would need to contact either the property manager or your board to request access to that site.
Okay. I have a couple more. The next question is, once you opt in, will that be enough for all of the events and meetings or for each one?
Once you opt in, you are opted in for electronic voting. Go ahead, Eileen.
This is Eileen. We have a couple of extra minutes, but these are questions for another meeting. But we do have a couple of extra minutes, so we'll go ahead and handle them. But I have to save some time for closing on this. So go ahead.
Okay. Once you opt in, you're opted in forever until you opt out. And so far, working with over 30,000 voters, I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody opt out. It doesn't really make much sense because you can still submit a paper ballot. Being opted in does not limit the way you vote. It just limits whether you get the paper ballot via mail, via postal mail. So yes, you're opted in for all future elections until you opt out.
Okay, I have another question. How are paper proxies added to the myHOAst electronic numbers?
We have a spot for paper proxies, but now I guess this gets into a conversation about what type of proxy are you talking about. If it's a general proxy, that would be a proxy that is not associated with a specific vote. That is, in a lot of cases for an election, you must provide a general proxy, and a general proxy is used primarily to meet quorum. In that case, the general proxy is entered into the myHOAst software, and the system will keep track of the proxy and how many addresses the proxy relates to and how that adds to your quorum. If you're talking about a proxy vote is not part of electronic processing. First of all, the proxy vote in the case of electronic is not necessary. It's redundant because the proxy part of an electronic vote is not needed per the statutes. So it makes no sense when you're sending in an electronic proxy vote. In the case of paper, you must have the proxy vote, or you must be present at the meeting submitting your proxy vote. Either way, the vote, once it's determined to be valid, is entered into myHOAst. So that long-winded answer means if it's a general proxy, we have a place for you to put it. If it's a proxy vote, you need it to accept the vote, but you do not need to tell myHOAst that the vote you have is valid.
And just in keeping with the theme of this meeting, can you quickly say where that is in the user's guide?
I'm not sure that is in the user's guide. It certainly is in the processing part of the user's guide. If you go to Appendix B, where it's a secret election, it'll talk about a general proxy and how to put it in. If you talk about a proxy vote, that'll be Appendix C, and you will not be putting it in because the directed proxy is only to make the vote valid. It is not something to be recorded. Once you record a proxy vote, you're already saying you have the necessary information to make it valid.
Okay, so appendices B and C would contain the information of, if appropriate, how to enter them.
Right, general proxy, Appendix B, and the directed proxy or limited proxy or proxy vote would be Appendix C.
Okay, great. Oh, I have one more. In the case, let's see. In the case of board election, we need written consent from owners. If they just opt in, would that be enough? I just want to remind you, it is 9:30 right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, written consent. There's two opt-ins in Florida. There's opting in for receiving email, electronic transmissions, and there's opting in for voting electronically. It's two different opt-in processes, and we've been talking about the opting in to vote electronically, not the opting in to receive electronic transmission.
I'm going to take a stab at interpreting that question. I think it might mean where the statute states that opting in needs to be done in writing. And in fact, in writing, as we know, yeah.
If that's the case, Florida has a law that says that if the statute says in writing, it is acceptable to do it online. So in our system, we take the signature and the electronic signature online, which serves to meet the criteria of receiving it in writing.
Okay, I do. Sounds like you did answer that question, and several thank yous along the way here. So I'm going to hand this over to Eileen.
Thanks, Julie. You'll be hearing more from Julie as we go through these sessions, by the way, and I bet you'll be glad of that. Okay, so in closing, I just want to say that as you're aware, we do have other tutorials scheduled, and you can find them. The ones we've only got them scheduled right now through the beginning of March, and you can find them at the link that you see there, schedule of online tutorials. If you go to our website, hoast-inc.com, and click under the Education tab, you can see the schedule of online tutorials. You can also find the recording of the online tutorials at the link that you see on this page here, online tutorials, also under the Education tab. We want to make sure these things are meaningful to you. So please, if you would, send to contact@HOAst some topics you may have for future tutorials. I mean, we know based on the questions that we get and the interest that we get in certain topics, we have chosen the ones that we've been presenting, but we want to make sure that they meet your needs because they're for you, not for us. So if you would give us some input, we'd appreciate that. Hopefully this recording is going to work and their system didn't go down, and I'll have the recording posted within the next couple of days for you to be able to see. So I want to ask you a couple of questions before we go. I'm going to I'm going to launch one of the polls that we have here, just to find out, for those of you who've been on these sessions before. So have you been to our hostings.com to register for online tutorials? There are 2 questions here. So you can just go ahead and put your answers in there. So it's either yes or no, of course. And then the second question is, have you been there to review the online tutorials? Because a lot of the information that most people are really interested in, we find that the tutorials can go a long way to helping you out. Okay, I only see a few of you are taking the poll, and that's fine. I just want to sense. So I see that a lot of people have not been in to listen to the tutorials. So it might be a good idea to go ahead on and do that now that you know where it is, right? Okay, and thank you for taking that poll. I'm going to end it. I do have, so here's what we see. Well, only a few people have responded. Only about 11 people have responded, and that's fine. So you can see that a lot of people have kind of gone on to register for the tutorials, and some people have also gone on to view them. So that sounds great. The reason I'm making a point of this is that, as I mentioned in the last invitation, I'm not going to be sending out registration links through the invitations after we finish the first session in March. I might send out a reminder, or I will send out a reminder saying, go in and register for the next class, and then it's going to be sort of on you to go in and register, find the class. And you can register in advance for any of the classes that are out there. Keep that in mind as well. Okay. So let's see, I think there was another thing I just wanted to ask. I'll close this one. I think there's something else I wanted to ask you very quickly. Oh, it doesn't want me to ask any more polls. It makes me sad. Oops. Okay, so this is something I'd also like to know. When can you use, what is the best time for you guys to do this? Are there any days of the week that suit you better? You can check any of these that apply. So is Monday good, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Does the day of the week matter to you? And if not, that's fine. You don't even have to add something. But we might as well make these as available to as many people as we can, right? So hopefully we'll be able to do that. About 8 of you now have responded. That's great. And I'm only going to leave this on for another 4 or 5 seconds. You can get in there if you care to. Looks like it's pretty well. So I'll let you see. So it's pretty across the board, right? So looks like Wednesday and Thursday have a slight edge. Okay, thanks for that. Appreciate that input. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is just find out how we did.